We're going to just dive into it because I'm going to do a pre-recorded pre-roll where I do your bio, say a couple other things. I haven't done that yet, but I kind of do that later on. So we're just going to jump in. I'm going to say, hey, Jenna, welcome to the show. And then we'll start with I'll introduce Bart. And then we'll just jump in.
Cool. Let me just turn off all my notifications real quick and think about that. See if we can avoid getting any, all right.
It's all right. You're a startup. You're working. It's all good.
All right. I think we're good now.
All right. We are definitely recording. All right. Let's do it. Hey, Jenna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And also with us, we have, as usual, my partner in crime, the CEO of Sumo Heavy, Bart Mraz.
Hello.
Hello, Bart. How are you today?
I'm fantastic.
Nice windy day in Philadelphia. All right, so let's jump in. Jenna, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and basically your origin story?
Sure. My story is probably a little non-traditional for being in e-commerce and retail right now, but I started my career much more in the healthcare space. I was a neurobiology and economics majors in undergrad, and thought that I would go into business, but really with the focus on healthcare and the hard sciences. And shortly after school, I was working in consulting to get a more general business background, and started doing a lot of innovation consulting and solution design, and absolutely fell in love with that. And I think it tied into the healthcare tilt for me, because I really wanted to figure out how we can help people be proactive about their healthcare rather than reactive. And so a lot of that for me played into wearables and Fitbits, and how do we keep moving, before we need to go to the doctor. And so I moved out to San Francisco. I was doing some product management there at a wearable tech company, and was going to Wharton Business School to get a degree from the healthcare management program, as well as integrated product design. And that's where I met Jane. So we started talking about this business idea very early on into our 2 years, and there was just such an organic need for it. And I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more as we talk. But while it seems pretty far from what I was doing in healthcare, I think there's a lot of really common threads in our mission to empower women, and a lot of the things that 10 years ago I thought I would have been doing today.
Yeah, that's quite a pivot from wearables to running Harper Wilde. Why don't you tell us give us the elevator pitch on Harper Wilde?
Sure. So Harper Wilde takes the BS out of bra shopping. We feel every woman deserves really high quality products for her everyday base layer. So we provide really thoughtfully designed bras in a very simple experience. We try to take all of the BS out of it so that we've done the work for her, so that she doesn't have to. And our broader mission is to lift up the ladies. So not only do we lift up a woman's ladies, but through our supply chain, through our Give Back program with Girls Inc., we donate to build the next generation of leading women as well.
Awesome.
So let's get back. So I'm gonna jump in, but technically still wearables, right?
I was actually gonna say that. It's still wearables, in a sense.
And I love that
catch, Bart. Good catch. I didn't even think of that one. That's awesome. So why don't you tell us about your co-founder, how you guys met? You said you met in school. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Jane and I met prior to business school, just briefly, when we were both out in San Francisco. She had been working at McKinsey for several years. She was doing general management consulting, and then had moved internal to work on more internal problems within McKinsey. And so that's really where she got this itch for more operational roles. So we were friends first, and then we started working on a project together, an innovation course at Wharton on a completely different business. But we found that we worked really well together, and really complementary working styles. And so she originally had this idea. If you guys have ever sat in on a Wharton class, I don't know if you would have, but anyone that would have in the past, I'd say 7 to 8 years, would know that the professors love to, rightfully so, brag about a lot of the really incredible businesses that have started out of the university. And so we kept hearing about them, and I think it served to, spark an idea of, we can get eyeglasses and runway dresses and mattresses delivered to our door really easily, and yet one of our most basic commodities that we're wearing every single day, we don't know where to go for that. And so that's really what we started talking about. And this was about October of our first year. So pretty early on into the experience that we met.
What year was that? Was that 2016 or 2015?
2015.
2015. Okay. So you guys are in 4 years in. So I'm trying to make a connection. I'm talking off camera here. What's the connect? So let's take the bridge from, you're in class, you guys become friends. You realize that bras are a commodity. What was the problem that you were trying to solve with bras?
Sure. I mean, I felt the problem right away. I had been in a professional corporate environment before school, and I was wearing a nice suit, nice clothes, nice handbag, and yet I was wearing a bra that was 5 to 10 years old, with an underwire poking me in the side. And so, Jane came to me with this idea, and I was like, holy shit! Like, for someone that's very focused on consumer behavior, this is a really weird behavior. Like, why am I replacing everything else I own, and yet the one thing I'm putting on every single day is ratted, torn, and certainly not serving the purpose that it was originally intended for. And so we really bonded over both having this really strange consumer behavior, and that first step was, are we the only people who are weird and not replacing our bras, or is this more of an epidemic? And as we talked to hundreds of women, just being all in the same area in proximity wise in terms of graduate school, we were able to learn really quickly. Every single woman we spoke to was like, oh yeah, I haven't gone shopping for a bra in years. I don't know where to go. I hate shopping for a bra. And we kind of became therapists, and just, learned everything that there was to learn about really the experience and why it was so challenging for women.
Yeah, let's get into that. So I read a few of the press clippings about you guys. And one of the things was the interesting way you did your product research. You gathered some friends, basically got a bunch of bras together. Can you walk us through exactly what you did and how you kind of had your aha moment about what you wanted to do?
Sure. I think there were really two phases. The first was understanding the challenges, and before we even wanted to build something, it's like, what are we really building for? And so we had hundreds of discussions, either one-on-one or with groups of women, and we would use existing products that were on the market, have them touch and feel them, tell us what problems you're currently having. And that's when we really started to circle around this idea that it's around the experience. Like, yes, there are challenges with the product, but the experience of shopping for bras, how many options there are, the way they're merchandised, like, it's just very overwhelming and consuming for women. And so that's when we really started to think about, how can we make this as simple as possible? And so we really narrowed down to, there's a few core silhouettes. If we have one option for each, like a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, a sweatshirt. So we've got the push-up, the t-shirt bra, the strapless, make it really simple. And so one of the ways we tested that is we bought bras from existing retailers. So we bought 500 bras on a credit card, and wow. We had women come over. There were 500 because of all of the sizes, but there was only 5 styles, and they were all in skin tone colors. And so we just observed. We didn't let women touch them because we wanted to mimic an online experience, but we allowed them to choose which one they would want to purchase of those. We did some price testing. So we had 2 that were exactly the same, but we doubled the price on one. So we had some really interesting insights for, price sensitivity around this product, because it is a very technical garment. And there was just so much we were able to do. We allowed women to actually buy so that we could see real purchasing behavior and then putting money behind it. And then anything they didn't buy, we just, returned to the store. So as 2 graduate students, we were able to get a lot of real data, and customers and consumers putting their money behind something before we actually set out to manufacture our own products.
That's pretty impressive. So tell us about, you have your research and you figure out, okay, this is the problem that we're going to solve. What's your next step? How do you go from idea to actual production of the physical garment? I imagine doing something as a physical product is much harder than launching a digital product. Where did you begin your sourcing, and how did that all take place?
Sure. I mean, that was honestly one of the biggest challenges, I think, for a lot of early entrepreneurs that I've spoken to since. It's how do we get from an idea, a concept, and slides to actually making something physical. And my advice is always to just start as soon as you can to move away from the idea phase so that you're actually getting into making something. So for us, we would go to New York, met with a bunch of folks in like the garment district. We're learning about different processes existed both in the US and abroad to actually manufacture a garment. And one of the things we learned early on is to make this traditional underwire bra. You actually can't make it right now with all of the pieces in it in the US, so it has to be manufactured abroad. One fun fact, we were actually told if you wanted to have a bra made, you actually had to go to a wedding dress seamstress because it's so complicated with over 30 different pieces that's actually the only place that you'd be able to get something that technical made. So it was really interesting for us to kind of, begin to uncover just how complex this particular garment is. And so Jane oversees more of the manufacturing operations supply chain side of things. And so she started researching, and there was one manufacturer that was coming to the top as, one of the best in the business, works with a ton of different intimates companies. And it just so happened that the wearable tech company that I had worked at also partnered with the same manufacturer. And so through that, we were able to, get an introduction. And we were the earliest brand that they had ever worked with. But, we flew out we skipped some finals. We flew out to Sri Lanka to meet with them. And we've been with them ever since. So, we built some really strong relationships early on. And they kind of saw the writing on the wall in the lingerie industry, and they've been a great partner for us.
Okay, can you describe to the non-bra wearing audience that we probably have out there, what makes the construction or the design of something from Harper Wilde different than something that you would buy, I don't know, at Target or anywhere else, or Victoria's Secret?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that we hear from all of our customers and that we took into account is it is the softest, most comfortable bra out there. That was one of the complaints. Traditionally and historically, bras were made for someone else. They were made by men for men, but for women to wear, which, when you think about Victoria's Secret, I think that can be pretty apparent. And so for us, it was, what does she actually want when she's wearing this bra 12 hours a day? One of Jane's friends is a surgeon. And, she said to us, she's like, I'm sitting in the operating room and I have to pause to, tighten my bra strap. Like this just shouldn't be, something that our surgeons, women running board meetings, women running a household, that just shouldn't be something that they're dealing with. And so not only is it comfortable, but we've actually thought about a lot of the pieces, like having the strap adjust in the front where you can actually reach it as opposed to the back.
As opposed to reaching in the back. Right. I read some articles about that. Yeah, that was very interesting take. Very interesting.
I just got married and my wife, she was looking for bras, obviously, for the wedding. And there's literally a picture of me after we got married upstairs, after we signed our papers, or right before adjusting her bra. Like, there's a picture of us doing that because she was like, it's not staying where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy when you really start to think about it. That was, those first few moments I remember so clearly of us saying, wow, like Victoria's Secret owns 50% of this market. It's a company that was concepted by men. It's run by men. It hasn't changed, much in the last 50 years in terms of its branding. And it's just doesn't really stand for, the modern empowered woman. And it also doesn't meet her needs at the most basic level. Like the product really isn't cutting it. And so that's what, pulled us from these tracks that we were on to kind of say, holy crap, like there's something here and we don't know where else to go for these garments. So, let's create something better for her.
Awesome. So we'll get back to Victoria's Secret in a little bit. We're going to kind of still walk through the process here. So you have the concept. I'm assuming you have prototypes. You have actual physical goods ready to sell. What year is this that you're now ready to launch the website? Like, why don't you tell us about the origin of the name and how you got the company set up?
Sure. In our second year of school, we really that's when we were really more getting to designing tactical physical products and our digital website. And so we went to Sri Lanka a couple times to work with our manufacturer during school. As I'm sure our professors would attest, we missed a couple tests here and there. And Jane was focused on that side while I was focused on getting the website ready to go. We did a friends and family launch while we were in Philadelphia. So we had 3,000 bras shipped to Jane's apartment at 20th and Spruce, which was not really set up to be a warehouse.
Yeah, hold on. I was going to say, how many boxes is 3,000 bras, and what size are those boxes?
Oh, it was a lot more than we realized. It was a great experience. So we set up a little fulfillment center. We got printers and packing tape and, everything you really need. And the idea was that when we were going to launch in LA a couple months later, we would also set up our own fulfillment there. The friends and family launch taught us a lot. It's that we are not a fulfillment company, and that's probably not where we should be spending our time and energy. So, very quickly from that, we got a 3PL set up to ship the remainder of the bras too. But it was a great experience. We tested the website. We tested the customer experience, the packaging, really everything before we launched a couple months later. So we graduated in May. We moved out to LA 4 or 5 days later. We launched 3 weeks after that. It's kind of been go, go, go ever since.
Wow. Impressive. What's the story behind the name of Harper Wilde?
Yeah. So, when we originally started talking about this, it was never just about bras for us. It was always about how do we empower these, incredible women, our peers, the women we look up to, how do we take something off their plate? And then how do we also build the next generation of these leading women? And so we looked to two iconic female authors, Harper Lee and Laura Ingalls Wilder, and we donate to Girls Inc. As part of every purchase. And so for us, it's always been, how do we really help, build the next generation of leading women? And I think Jane and I were always very fortunate and grateful for the opportunity that we had to have a great education, which was, really where we came up with the idea for this business.
So it sounds like you and Jane have good synergy. How do you split your responsibilities? I know that you're responsible for certain areas. Like, how do you guys split that up?
So Jane focuses more on the physical product side, so manufacturing, operations, supply chain. I focus more on the digital, front end, so marketing, branding, technology. That's actually how we split it up from the very beginning. That first year at us in school when we were starting to concept the business, we talked about which areas we felt like we each could really excel at, and which areas, energized us and de-energized us. And so we really had complementary focuses, from that early stage. And then, as we've grown and hired a team out, we've just continued to specialize in those areas.
How big's your team now?
We are 8 now.
Oh, nice. And you're still in LA?
Correct. Yep. Still in Venice.
Did we talk about this? Like, how'd you wind up in Venice, of all places? Weather? Nice weather?
It's certainly not a bad aspect. We were really thoughtful about where we wanted to headquarter the company. I think with e-commerce companies now, there's, you do have some flexibility in terms of where you locate. And I spent a ton of time in New York before graduate school. Jane had spent time in San Francisco. So we were very familiar with those markets. And as we looked at, what was really important for us in building this business, we knew that building a lasting brand was going to be really, really important. And a lot of the creative folks that we were already working with were in LA. There was this really awesome energy in LA that we weren't really finding in these other markets when it came to startups. So of course, New York and San Francisco are great places to start a business. And I think, we would do just as well there, but we really felt this awesome sense of community and everyone kind of excited about making LA the next, e-commerce up and coming startup market. So it's been fun to be here and kind of band together with those companies.
So, the Venice, I guess Venice is like big for that too, right? Because there's tons of startups in just that area alone.
Yeah, there's, walking distance to, Parachute Home. There's folks like True Vitamins. there's so many. And so I think it doesn't always get thought of as like the number one market, but we've just seen, there's an incredible base of talent here. And a lot of folks also, interested in kind of coming from some of the other cities because of the weather or the pricing. So it's been awesome to, be able to build the business out here and kind of take advantage of all the awesome resources LA has to offer.
Not bad to go surfing and coming to work.
There's that too. If you're going to be working all hours, on getting something off the ground, why not do it in nice weather?
Yeah, and I was going to add, besides having the nice weather all the time, you're kind of in a good spot in terms of the LA culture, which fashion. I think you think of New York, but you also think of LA for fashion, so that kind of makes sense. But you're also near Silicon Valley, which we can get into now. What are you guys doing in terms of funding or growing the company, or where are you guys at with that? Are you going to stay as a private company, or what's your plans for the future in terms of growing the business?
Yeah, so we've raised money thus far, and we're there's a lot of potential routes that we could take this. I think the lingerie industry is a really, really interesting industry to look at right now with everything going on with the bigger players. So there's a ton of movement. We've seen some other new companies get scooped up by some incumbent brands like Wakel and Hanes. So there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. It was actually one of the reasons we were very excited to bring one of our more recent advisors, Sharon Turney, into the business. And that's something that, we, not on a day-to-day basis, but, on a quarterly basis, we'll strategize with her kind of on what the long-term vision looks like for Harper Wilde. So right now we're just focused on growing and creating an awesome business. But I think there's a lot of really interesting opportunities in the long run.
Okay, so you referred to Sharon Turney. She was the CEO of Victoria's Secret, correct?
That is correct.
How did you land her as an advisor? I would think, that's, you kind of glossed over that, but I think that's a big catch there, don't you think?
Yeah, we are very, very excited to have her on board. She's been incredible, and we were put in touch with her quite a while ago, and we stayed in touch. She's been she has a wealth of knowledge, of course, on this industry, and is just very smart on it. And I think from her perspective, she really felt like of the companies out there, we understand our target demographic and we understand this millennial woman, better than the other companies. And I think that's what she was just most excited about. So we're stoked to have her on board. She's been already incredibly helpful, and I think will continue to be as we grow.
Yeah, that's really impressive. So let's talk more about, Sharon is an advisor, but what does she advise on day-to-day things, or it's just like you just pick up the phone and say, Sharon, we got a problem with this, or does she come in and say, here's a plan, or here's what you guys should be doing? Like, how does that relationship work? Because I want to dovetail that into, want to talk about your marketing.
Sure. Right now, it's definitely not day to day. I think she's available if we had questions and wanted to call her. But I think running a larger company is so different than a very small company, and so she'll advise on like bigger, more strategic decisions. Like when we were thinking about moving into sports bras, we talked to her a lot about the fact that sports bras take up 50% of a woman's drawer, her bra drawer. And so, there's just really interesting insights that she has just from being in this industry. She knows a lot about different suppliers, and, building those relationships. So we've leaned on her, not as much on the day-to-day front, but more, long-term, anywhere from 6 months out to, 5 years out.
Excellent. So let's talk about your marketing here. Let's start with the easy question here. Who's your ideal customer, and how do you target them?
Sure. Our core right now is the 25 to 34-year-old woman. She's in her job, busy, working day to day, and frankly just doesn't have time, nor does she care to spend her time shopping for a bra. She either has more important things or more enjoyable things that she wants to do. And so we really feel that we take that burden off by providing a really exceptional product that doesn't involve a ton of decision making to find the right one that you need.
And what's your customer acquisition strategy? Where do you find customers? What type of advertising are you guys doing?
Sure. We're doing, we've had a lot of success on some of the more typical ones, Facebook and Instagram. We have an incredible email channel. I think a lot of that stems from our voice. So even though we don't release a lot of products because that's not, part of our strategy to every week have a new drop, but we have such an engaged consumer base because people are just really excited about the humor and kind of that sharp wit that we introduced into everything we do. So we found, a ton of success building up that community, as well as, social and a lot of the other traditional channels that a lot of companies have seen. I think we've just kind of taken a little bit of a different approach to it in introducing that humor and building that community out.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. I'd like to commend you guys on your social media. It's when you take a look at the Instagram, I really like the aesthetic. Being a designer, I like the color palettes and everything. And obviously it matches your product, but there's definitely some thought that went into that. Who's behind that? I mean, when I look at this, it's the anti-Victoria's Secret. It's like real women,
Yep.
but it's got an edge to it. There's some, which we'll get into the other activist type messages that you guys get involved in, but there's really some thought that goes into that. Like how did that come about and who's responsible for that?
Sure. I mean, I think so much of it feels authentic and feels well thought out because it really is authentic. It comes, I think so much of the brand, which happens a lot with, these direct consumer companies, it really reflects the founders in the early days. And a lot of what Jane and I found as we were trying to build this brand and, recognized a lot of the absurdities in the industry is, there's a lot of brands that have a sense of humor that are focused on men. But we couldn't really think of that many brands that are, serve female product or products for women that are also funny. And a lot of our friends, have a sense of humor. Humor has always been important to Jane and I in our relationship. And so kind of having that, somewhat sarcastic, funny, smart edge was always something that we wanted to incorporate and just felt like, even as we were trying to come up with references, there wasn't anything for us to point to. And so, we wanted to create a unique, defined voice and brand imagery that really would speak to that millennial woman that we felt like, there wasn't really a lifestyle brand.
Yeah, it's really great. Okay, so let's talk about some of the activism that you guys have been involved in. I'll let you speak on that. I mean, it's mostly feminine. How should I word this? Feminist issues. I'll re-say it. I'll cut this out. But how do you want me to? How do you want me to word this?
I mean, people, social issues, I guess.
I'll just say social. I don't want to stumble on the word feminine. All right, let's talk. All right, let's talk about some of the things you do, particularly with activism and social issues. You want to talk about that? I know that there was a couple of things that you guys have been involved in. One was Lift Up the Ladies, and the other one was a special edition bra, which I can't say on the air. You want to talk about that?
Sure. I mean, for us, as I mentioned, this has always been such an important part of the brand. And so as we started thinking about these limited edition products, and really the fact that the bra is the first thing someone puts on, in her morning. And so how can you, how do you make that moment that much more empowering for her? And so we came up with the idea to, embroider quotes on the bra as this little, it's a secret to herself rather than like a graphic tee that everyone wears. This is kind of that message that, only she knows about. And the first one we did was a quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And the quote was, "When there are 9." And so we embroidered on our black bra, white writing. And it was, when she was asked, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? And the answer would be when there are 9. And there was a point when there were 9 men, so why not 9 women? And it was just such an awesome, such a strong quote. And that was the first one we did almost a year ago now. And it just did so incredibly well. And the things that we were hearing from customers is, I put this on in the morning and I feel awesome. Like I feel like I can take on the day. And for a garment that traditionally has a negative connotation with it, for it to completely flip on its head and be so positive and empowering, that was such a strong signal to us that we were, really onto something. So, not only do the products have a great impact for the women who are wearing them, but each of these limited edition products we donate to an organization that we partner with. So that one was She Should Run, which is, trying to get more women into elected office. And then we've done other ones. In April for Earth Day, we did Tough as a Mother with an Earth on it for Mother Earth, and donated to a charity for that. And then I think the one you were referencing is in May, we embroidered something on a bra, which I guess I also cannot say on the air.
F your laws, it said.
There you go.
Spell out the word.
F your laws would be the PC way to do it. And it's interesting. We actually had a different campaign planned, and we saw all of the abortion bans going to effect in the Southeast. And within about a week, the team actually said to us, they're like, we want to do something, like, what can we do? And so, we already had this campaign going. We had that was ready to go. We had the embroidery, everything was set. And so we scrapped it. We said, if we can get this together in 5 days, let's launch it. And so, we completely changed the design for the bra. We changed the imagery, all the messaging. And I think within about 5 days, we got it out, and that was one of our best-selling, limited edition bras to date. And we donated 50% of proceeds to the ARC Southeast to help women get, safe access to reproductive care. So just incredible to see. It's both about messaging and then actually doing something. And for us as a small company, maybe we're somewhat limited in what we can do, but we still feel like we can play a really big role in, standing for something.
Impressive. Let's take a look at the other side of that, though. Did you have any? So I read on your social media and I looked, and it's been mostly positive. Like, people, when is this bra coming back? I really love this. I love the message. Was there any negative parts to that? Was there any blowback, or did you see any effect in your business at all, or has it all been a net positive?
Yeah, I think when you do something like that, there's always going to be, I think if you're not upsetting anyone, then you're probably not standing for much.
Right. You're not shouting loud enough.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's something that we've kind of lived by. And of course, there's a fine line, and you want to make sure that you're doing things, tastefully, and that for your community, it feels right for the brand. But, for us, this was something that we felt very strongly about, and it was, in line with our values, our brand values. The full team got to have a say in it, of, whether we launched it, how we launched it. And so, of course, we got backlash on social media, on, customer experience channels. But I think what was really cool was that we actually saw our community playing a role in moderating that discussion, rather than, it being internally coming from the brand. So, on social media, we saw people, one woman said, I'm never buying for your company again. And then some other woman came in and said, I just brought 3 in her place.
That's
so,
great.
It's cool to kind of see that. And I think that's when you really start to see, you've hit on something, when the community wants to be your voice and help amplify your voice and stick up for you, because, they feel strongly about what you're doing.
Right. Because you have, what's that phrase, the 1,000 true fans? Like, once you have the 1,000 true fans. So I think you guys nailed it there. That's really great. I want to circle back, talk about something a little bit more boring, because this is, after all, an e-commerce themed podcast. We'd like to talk about your website. What platform are you guys on?
We're on Shopify.
Oh, Shopify. Excellent. You know what? It's a very well-designed site. Who does the design work? Do you have just a freelancer, or you work with someone overseas, or how does that all work?
So we just hired our in-house designer, actually for the first time. So we were getting by for a couple of years. I don't know how, without her, but it's been incredible to have her fully on board. So before that, we were working mostly with agencies. Like you mentioned, I mean, if you want full service design, and for us, it was also a bit of the efficiency. I think for a company our size, we're pretty lean. And so we have tried to find ways to really efficiently work where we can kind of get by as a really, lean startup still. So on the dev side, we've always either worked with agencies, or we've kind of moved back and forth between agencies and independent contractors, depending on kind of what our needs are for the business at that time.
Awesome. So when you say you have a team, what do you say, 8 or 9? That doesn't include fulfillment, correct? Do you outsource your fulfillment from somewhere else?
Correct. We outsource fulfillment.
Okay. Let me see if I get any other. Bart, you get any other development questions? Because then I'm going to go back and talk to. I'll just do some personal questions, because we're already almost at 45 minutes. So
yeah, let's go there.
I just want to go there.
Yep.
So we talked about money, so I don't want to go back to money. All right, we're going to do like a little entrepreneur chat, and then I guess we'll close it up. We'll be almost at 50 minutes.
Well.
All right, let's get back to you now, Jenna. Being an entrepreneur is obviously demanding work. What's a typical day like for you? How do you manage your time?
I think one of the ways is I'm incredibly organized. I don't know how, you can run a business and a personal life without being organized. So for me, that's one thing. I have lists everywhere. I have lists in my personal life. I'm actually getting married in a week, so that's added a whole new
Wow.
I know that feeling.
Whole nother set of
I
lists.
just went through this summer. Trust me.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
boy.
that's added a whole new element of logistical planning and organizational demands. So I think that's really shown me the degree of organization I can truly achieve when needed. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's all about having lists. It's about, I like to be very scheduled. So, I've got a routine in the morning. I'm roughly at work the same time every day and leave around the same time every day. And I think just having a lot of that schedule and routine, it eliminates some of the additional decisions that I need to make throughout the day. I eat the same thing for breakfast every morning. Usually my lunch doesn't look all that different day to day. And I think some of those things for me just allow me to be more focused and present at work, and a little bit less of that drain in terms of like decision making for things outside of work.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with all of that. The less decisions that you have to make is more brain power you have for the really more important things in your life. When you say you make lists, do you just have just like a general list, or is any kind of like ninja tactics that you can share with the audience? Because we're very into like that whole organizational kind of Ginsu stuff there. Is there anything that you would want to share, or is it just you're just walking around with a pad and paper all day long?
I think the most helpful thing for me has been I'll look at my list, and before I start doing anything, I'll put in, it's almost like an estimation meeting for on the dev side. I say how much work I think this should take or how much time. So, this email should take me, 5 minutes, or this task should take me 15 minutes. And that helps, because I think what I've found is that when I don't do that, I'll find something that, when I'm not in the weeds on it, it shouldn't be a more than, 10-minute task, and yet it's taking me an hour. And so having that perspective and laying it out in advance kind of keeps me honest of, okay, when I wasn't in this, I knew it wasn't that important. So let me just get this out the door, get to that 80% rather than 100%. So that's kind of helped me be a little bit more efficient.
I like the way you think. So let's ask another question here. What are the biggest risks or challenges or pain points that you and the company are facing right now? Obviously, getting married would probably add a time crunch to that. What else is on the horizon that's kind of making you a little nuts?
Honestly, I think just like being able to test physical products. I think we're all about data and testing on the digital side, and it's amazing how much you can test how quickly on the digital side. I think with physical, it's really interesting to have to be a lot more patient, and you can't run really quick tests in the same way, especially when your supply chain is overseas and design time takes a while. And so I think that's something that we're kind of working through is there a way to learn in a smaller scale? And I listened to a podcast by the founder of Native Deodorant recently, and he talked about testing with physical product, which I thought was really cool. And Jane and I chatted about it after. So I think there probably are ways to do that, but it's just a matter of how do we apply that same thinking of iterating quickly when you have a lot of the operational constraints of a physical supply chain.
I have another question about the Harper Wilde website. Are you guys planning on expanding the product line at all? I know that you had that little section called, what was it called? The Wild Things. And it was like a little bit of accessories and whatnot. Was that just kind of like an experiment, or are you guys going to open that up wider, or what's your thinking there?
Yeah, we've got some exciting things for the Wild Things, in place. So some of those will be coming over the next few months, and there are some additional product expansions as well. So in August, we went from 3 core products to 5, and we have a couple in the works over the next couple months that we'll be launching as well. So there is a balance of keeping really streamlined and simple, but also making sure that we're meeting all.
Right on time.
Right on schedule.
So we're always trying to make sure that we're also meeting different needs. So if there is a need that we're not filling with our product offering now, then that is something that we're working to make sure that we're meeting her at every stage of her life or every part of her day and the different needs that she has.
Awesome. So what does success look like for your company? How would you qualify as you guys being a success? Do you think you're there, or you think what's the next plateau for Harper Wilde? Acquisition or $1 billion? Like what does that look like for you guys?
I don't know if I'd be a good entrepreneur if I said we've already reached success 2 years in.
Well, an entrepreneur is never they're never
We're never satisfied.
Never satisfied. You never rest on your laurels. But do you get to the point where you're going, okay, I have enough to live. I don't have to worry about paying my rent. Are you hungry for the next thing? Or are you saying, I'm going to ride this for the next 25 years? Like, what's your feelings about that?
Sure. Our vision is to be the go-to for everyday bras. So that's really our North Star. I think a lot of companies in this space, start to diversify really quickly. And as much as we could talk about, Victoria's Secret, I think one thing they did really well, and one of the ways they were able to build such a moat, is that they were absolutely known for bras. If she travels and forgets a bra, she's going to Victoria's Secret, and that's the first place that she thinks about. And so, we want to be that go-to for all of her everyday bras.
The anti-Victoria's Secret, would you say, or is it the other? What's the flip side of Victoria's Secret? Like, is that what you're trying to?
As much as I reference it's not really the thing that guides us. We're not striving to be the anti-them. I think for us, it's just how do we create an empowering brand that resonates with the modern millennial woman. And so that's more so our North Star, rather than kind of, what are we not?
Yeah, I guess that's what I was trying to point at, is that your branding and every aesthetic and everything that you guys are about are the exact opposite of Victoria's Secret. And I think that resonates really well with the core section of our female population. So I commend you for that. I have another entrepreneurial question. What is the best advice that you would give an entrepreneur or startup right now working on a similar or even a different product, but in the same space that you guys were in back in school and you were about to go? What would be the one piece of advice you'd give them to help them move their idea forward?
I would say just do something.
Do it. I knew you were going to say just do it.
But not even do something. I think, Jane and I spent a year talking to people, making slides, tweaking slides, talking to that person. And after, 9 months, we were just like, we haven't actually created anything. And so I think, the first time we created a Squarespace landing page to collect emails, and we and ran, a few ads, even for spending $10, just to gauge interest. I think that's when we started, we finally, broke the seal, so to speak, of getting out of, slide and idea mode and just getting into putting something out into the world. And I think that sometimes is the hardest bridge to cross. And once you're there, you can then start iterating and actually just doing more. So I think just do something.
Do something. Yeah. No, it's funny because I heard on another podcast that there's guys that get together and are like, yeah, let's get together for coffee and talk about what's up. And they basically make a job out of talking about all the things they're going to do. It's like, yes, in year 3 of my t-shirt company, it's like, have you designed any shirts yet? Well, no. Well, go back home and start designing the t-shirt. Then come back and we'll have coffee again.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask you a question like, you went to where, and do you think there's a lot more ideas in those schools that just never see the light of day?
Oh yeah,
because
question.
People just like
they talk and they don't do.
Yeah, they don't do it. Do you think that that's happening more and more, and people should do more because there'll be better ideas out there?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think people are throwing ideas around constantly, which I think to some degree you have to have, 1,000 ideas to have one good one in a lot of senses. But I think the more, a lot of people have these great ideas, either sit on them or don't know how to get started, or are afraid to put something up because they think someone else will steal it, or they're not sure how people will react. And I think just, starting that earlier and honing that skill of like, I'm not married to anything. I'm just going to put it out there and see how people react to it. You start to learn to pivot and just be closer to the customer. So I think the quicker people can do that, the more great ideas.
Do you see friends, like, do you drive them crazy with it? Because I know I do. John and I have been doing this for 20 odd years now.
Mm.
How many ideas do I have every day?
Yeah,
So I drive people nuts with this, but
I have pads full of ideas here. They're all right here.
But I happen to just go do them.
Yeah. I have a lot of those. I wish I could just, there was something to fix this or something to do this for me. But I think I've got one that's taking up most of my mind share now. So most of mine are
just a small one.
Yeah, it's funny because I think everybody, these so-called entrepreneurs, they go, "Oh, I'm going to invent the next Uber. It's the Uber for X," and it's like, no, you just come up with your own idea and stop trying to be the Uber or the Facebook or the Airbnb of whatever. Come up with your own idea, put it out there, make an MVP. If it doesn't work, do something else. It didn't cost.
There's like some of the worst pictures, Uber of something, or
the Uber
Airbnb
of toothbrushes. It's like, no, that's not going to work. No, I don't think
I don't know
so.
if that's something I want someone driving around and bringing to me and reusing, but we'll see.
No.
No,
Hard
I
pass.
don't
Hard
think
pass.
so.
Hard pass on that one.
Hard pass. All right, a personal question. What would you do if you weren't doing this?
Run an animal shelter.
That's so funny because when I ask that question, I get a very similar response. I always say I'd go with the goats. I want to hang out with goats, baby goats. Give me the baby goats. Something completely removed from tech, but that's a similar answer. So you would be the non-tech cat lady, or
more dogs, but I'm okay with that too. No, I mean, that's in an ideal world. I mean, I would love that, but like, I know that I wouldn't sit still for more than a day.
That's the other problem. Everybody dreams of retiring and laying on the beach, but that lasts about 2 days, and then you're.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
Especially when you're an entrepreneur, there's no way. No way.
I think I would. That would be a great, like a really fun week, and then I would be like, all right, I'm ready for the next.
You'd be like twitching and itching and.
Right, hold on. Business idea: entrepreneur camp with goats and
baby goats.
We're on the baby goats and dogs.
There you go.
There's
all right.
Yoga now, so there's a market out there.
Yeah, goat yoga. I love it. I want to do it. I love the baby goats. All right, final question. What's the last thing you bought online?
I think a dress. Not my wedding dress, but something to wear next weekend. So a couple days ago.
Boring answer.
I don't, I'm in that mode. What other fun answers have you gotten from people?
Pens, guitar. Oh no, the best one was remember the wig from Anthony? The wig for my kids.
A wig.
I did just buy 150 plastic dinosaurs and insects, but it wasn't the last thing I bought.
Nice.
That would have been a better answer. I'll edit that in. 150 plastic dinosaurs, you don't say.
Yeah, just an every Tuesday purchase.
Nice.
All right. Well, we're coming up on almost an hour. So this is your time for your shameless plug. Plug anything you'd like, where people can find you, whatever you want to say. Time is yours.
You can visit us at harperwilde.com or check out our Instagram at Harper Wilde. That's HARPERWILDE, and help us lift up the ladies.
Awesome. Jenna, it was great having you on the show. We'll check back with you in a couple of months and see how you guys are doing. Bart, you got anything else?
No, I don't.
All right. That is it. And we'll see y'all.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you again, Jenna. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you. That was great.
That was fun.
That was good.
Sorry, I gave you the boring purchase answer.
No. It was all good. That was all.
It's like it's a question we always ask just because it like caps it off nicely. Obviously, an e-commerce thing kind of happens.
Yeah, I could have had the dinosaurs and insects.
So wait, you're getting married? You said next week, right?
Next weekend, yeah.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I know how that feels.
It's a lot of stuff, but I'm very excited for all the free time I'm gonna have after it. I think
we took like a week off. We were down the shore. We have a shore house, but it wasn't. We haven't done the honeymoon yet. That's coming at some point.
Nice. Yeah, we're doing the same. Just like a quick few days over here in Santa Barbara, but we'll be good. Yeah, it's exciting. Our head of growth is actually getting married in 2 days, so it's October.
Jeez.
Back to back. Yeah,
guys are busy. All right. So as far as timing, I have to edit this, and plus we have to record another episode or two. So this might not be out for another couple of weeks, but we will let you know. Once we do all the artwork for the social media, we'll share that with you. We'll also promote it on all our channels. So you can either choose to retweet it or send it out on your own. We do not care what you do with it because it helps promote us both. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'd love to.
Bart's battery died, so he's gone. That's why he's frozen in space here. If you look in the video, his battery
No
died.
worries. Well, yeah, thank you guys. This was fun. Just let us know when it's up, and we're excited to take a look.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. I'm also I'll get a transcript of this. I don't know if you care. I'll send a copy of that over to you as well in case you want to pull things out. If you need any pull quotes for some other publications, we're fine with that.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jenna. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.